If you woke up chained to a pipe in a grungy bathroom with another man and were told that if you killed him you'd be set free, but if you didn't, you and your family would die, what would you do? Highly requested How to Beat video will follow Jigsaw's victims, see if we can make better decisions, and ultimately attempt to bend the traps and solve. If you think we could do better, or if you have a movie request, let me know in the comments. If you want to stay prepared for all the other worst case scenarios movies can come up with, hit the like notification bell and subscribe.
This is my dream!
This video's sponsor is Raycon. Raycon's making a lot of noise in the electronics industry with their wireless earbuds. The company was co-founded by Ray J, and if you aren't familiar with it, here's a refresher. Yeah, this guy knows how to produce music. Raycon offers their wireless earbuds in a range of fun colors and patterns, with a variety of fit options to make sure it's snug in your ears, and no dangling wires or stems that bounce around or get caught on things. Their earbuds have 6 hours of playtime to cover your work sessions, long hikes, workouts, or whatever else. Case and you get 24 hours more playtime with these 5 earbuds. They have seamless Bluetooth pairing so you stay hooked up. There's a solid amount of bass for a fuller sound, and their compact design gives them a comfortable noise isolating fit. The best part is that their prices start at half of other premium audio brands. I use these to listen to podcasts and audiobooks when hitting my 10,000 steps, to get jacked up when pumping iron at the gym, and to get some vibes flowing while I script the videos. They stay in, hit hard, and I really couldn't be happier with them. If I had one wish, it's that you would all check out Raycon by clicking the link in the description box, or go to buyraycon.com/nerdexplains to get 15% off your Raycon purchase and help support the channel. Raycon has a 45-day free return policy, so why not grab a pair and check them out yourself? Alright, let's see if we can outsmart Jigsaw and his traps. We start out following John Kramer, more infamously known as Jigsaw. He and his lovely assistant, Amanda, are setting up Lawrence and Adam's game. Their game is pretty simple. Make sure the other person dies, with the asymmetric twist that Adam was a private investigator hired by Lawrence doesn't know who Adam is. It's honestly not that spicy of a relationship.
I asked for your help!
Adam's legitimate professional incite Lawrence to murder him. Come on, man, you can do better. Amanda shackles both Lawrence and Adam, places each of their instructional cassette tapes in their pockets, puts Adam in the tub along with the keys to their shackles, and then turns on the faucet. Jigsaw puts the finishing touches on his mask and pours the fake blood on the floor where he's going to act as a suicide victim holding the 2 primary game elements, the revolver and the cassette recorder. Jigsaw looks in the mirror and says it's time to start our game, and then injects himself with a sedative to slow his heart rate and breathing before lying down in the blood. We don't see it here, but Jigsaw also palmed a remote for tasers hooked up to Adam and Lawrence's shackles as a defense if they get keen. Amanda completes the setup by turning off all the lights and locking the door, sealing them all in. Before the game officially begins, we need to back up for a second. See, Lawrence and Adam aren't the only victims here. When Jigsaw was looking into the mirror saying it's time to start our game, he wasn't talking to himself. It was a two-way mirror with a camera behind it operated by Zep. Unlike Amanda, Zep isn't an assistant or apprentice. He was given a cassette tape outlining how Jigsaw had injected him with a slow-acting poison which only Jigsaw had the antidote for. If Zep wanted to live, he needed to play his part in Lawrence and Adam's game, which meant abducting Lawrence's family and killing them if Lawrence didn't kill Adam at 6 p.m. At the moment Jigsaw looked into the mirror and told Zep to begin, Zep was watching from offside hit Lawrence's house with his family tied up. Zep is a certified sick fuck who gets off on hearing the increased heart rate of his victims, so he basically Zep might have been promised a position in Team Jigsaw if he pulled this off, like Amanda, one of the rare escapees of Jigsaw's traps. However, the amount of people who would take that offer after being poisoned and forced to abduct and kill an innocent family is slim at best. I think he has far stronger reasons to put Jigsaw down and claim the trophy for it. Zep is in a position of extreme power here. He knows who Jigsaw and his apprentice are. Jigsaw is currently incapacitated, and as we later see, Zep has the location and access to the bathroom where all this is going down. Zep can just message the details to Detective Tapp, and it's game over for Jigsaw and Amanda. The slow-acting poison in his system isn't a problem. John Kramer's not a toxicologist. It's not like he developed some
Hey, is that you?
revolutionary, unheard of poison. Zeb should be able to go to a hospital or poison control center and get treated if there's an antidote. The game is like 8 hours long, so we might as well go see if we can treat him before being forced to end an innocent family's lives. First, he'd have to sedate the wife and daughter while he checked so they didn't run off. Now, even if the hospital couldn't treat the poison, at least how to make the antidote might be found in Jigsaw's home and computer hardware. Risky, maybe, but I'd say it's less risky than trusting the asshole who was in the first place. At the very least, Zeb should be using his position behind the camera to stockpile evidence against John Kramer and Amanda that can be used to blackmail Jigsaw if this game goes sideways. Man, this makes Jigsaw look pretty stupid. He should not have chosen to victimize someone who knew him so well, and should not have given him the location of the game. Zeb doesn't consider these options, so the game begins.
Hey, you the driver? No, don't tell me your name. Too many new people.
In
Come
Adam's
on, we got a
panicky
job.
awakening,
I call
he
shotgun.
unwittingly kicks the drain plug open, and the key to his shackle gets sucked down the drain. Natural, probable, and very unlucky. Amanda and Jigsaw had to know that the key would likely go down the drain without Adam realizing it was there in the first place. That's just poor game design. It's immediately
I just met the guy
clear
running the
that
show.
this is a bad
He's freaking
situation.
FIB.
This isn't some state-of-the-art
I've never worked for the fucking
containment
feds
cell to
before.
house hot pickpocket
Anyway,
or women
this
or
job,
some handsome
it's simple.
millionaire's pet
In
AI
and out.
project.
So you better be a
Play
fast driver.
games all day and make friends with cheeky
Coulda got
robots.
no ways
You're
to
a
drive
whiny
there and
dork
back.
chained up
You
in a
know,
rusty
I heard the
basement
guys
with a
say those
phone
cars
saw
can
next to
access
you.
your
The
Pesto
really
account.
thin silver
Crazy,
lining
right?
is that you're
My
still
fiancé
breathing.
Ladarka
If
said
your
not to
abductor
overthink
wanted
it.
you
Keep
dead,
sending her
you'd
money.
already be dead. Lawrence turns
the
on the
best.
lights, which reveals a bloody corpse in the middle of the room. To them, it looks like this corpse was another victim who committed suicide with a revolver and left his dear loved one's note on his recorder. If they took a minute to analyze the situation, they'd realize the corpse is actually very strange. Why was a man initially left in here unshackled with a loaded gun? What compelled him to supposedly kill himself? Why was his dead body and the loaded gun left here with Adam and Lawrence? Perhaps the strangest aspect of it from their POV is the crafted appearance of a supposed suicide. Any blood splatter analyst would tell you that this was no suicide. What this corpse is amateurly dolled up to look like is a standing person shooting themselves in the head, falling to the ground with a pistol and recorder in hand, and blood pooling out from the hole in their head. This didn't happen. If it did, blood and brains would have splattered onto the adjacent walls. Then, when his lifeless corpse fell, the gun and recorder would have fallen or gotten knocked out of his hands. From what I've read about suicides, yes, I went there, a victim would rarely be found holding the pistol they used on themselves because their bodies immediately go flaccid upon death. Rigor mortis only kicks in after being dead for a while. It would be extremely weird and improbable that he would have laid flat out face down on the ground before shooting himself in the head. Even if he did, the blast from that .357 Magnum Smith & Wesson Model 686 would have directionally propelled blood and brain a good distance outwards. There is some directionality to the blood, but it's jutting out on the same side he's holding the gun. The blood should be spraying in the opposite direction. You could say that I watched too much Dexter and that it's unrealistic for them to know this. But Lawrence is a surgical oncologist. He should have some general knowledge on this. All this begs the question, why dress up a corpse as a suicide victim and put it in the room with them? Hell, is this corpse even a corpse? They don't know the actual cause of death, so this man could be alive. It shouldn't be too hard to check. All they need to do is crawl as close to him as possible and check for torso expansion. If this man's alive, he'll be breathing. Even shallow breaths should be visible. They could also throw a toilet seat at him to cause a little pain as a jump starter or to get a reaction, but considering they don't know who this is and that he has a gun, I'd play my cards closer to chest and go with the former strategy. Lawrence notices that there's a brand new clock on the wall and remarks that it must have been intentionally placed there for them to tell time. Right now, it's unclear why, but what is clear is that this is not a normal abduction, at least to Lawrence.
Can you see any scars? What? Huh? This is what they do, man. They kidnap you and drug you. Before you know it, you're lying in a bathtub and your kidneys are on eBay.
Your foot is chained to a pipe in a derelict bathroom with a corpse in the middle of the room. I have a feeling you're gonna be wishing you woke up on ice with a kidney missing. And I highly doubt kidney thieves use eBay. Lawrence's next move is to try the door. It's low effort, so you might as well check before doing something crazy. Unsurprisingly, it doesn't budge. Even if it did, there's still the whole shackle thing to contend with. Adam finds a cassette tape in his pocket labeled Play Me. Lawrence checks his pocket and finds one too, with the addition of a small key and a single .357 Magnum bullet. The key doesn't work on his shackle, so he tosses it to Adam, which doesn't work on his shackle either. Clearly they're missing important information which will be found on their tapes. They're going to need to confiscate the corpse's cassette recorder to hear how screwed they really are. Adam cleverly uses his shirt and the drain plug to retrieve the recorder and play his tape.
Up until now, you simply sat in the shadows, watching others live out their lives. So you're going to watch yourself die today, Adam.
It's apparent now that his captor knows him intimately, chose him based on his flaws, and is presenting a situation that will require him to overcome them. The captor is alluding to how Adam has pathetically been a silent bystander, capturing other people's follies from the sidelines with no skin in the game. I mean, a private investigator is a legitimate career that has constructive utility. It's not like Adam was one of those assholes who videos people drowning in floodwaters to get 15 minutes of e-fame instead of trying to help. I guess you can't expect someone who designs torture dungeons to have a strong moral code. Adam's game is weird because you'd think that based on his targeted character flaw, he would be instructed to sacrifice himself in some way in order to help Lawrence survive. But nope. All he gets is watch yourself die or do something about it. Not wanting to risk breaking the recorder by throwing it to Lawrence, he tells Lawrence to just throw him the tape. What would happen if they accidentally broke the recorder or Lawrence beefed his toss and it went down the bath drain too? Would Jigsaw get up, sigh in disappointment, and just headshot both of them for being morons? I'd like to think so. Adam pops Lawrence's tape in and hits play.
Dr. Gordon,
What the fuck is this fucking blinking, dude?
every day of your working life, you have given people the news that they're going to die soon. Now you will be the cause of death. Your aim in this game is to kill Adam. You have until 6 on the clock to do it. If you do not kill Adam by 6, then Allison and Diana will die.
Well, there's your reason for the brand new clock. You have 8 hours to kill Adam, or your family is murdered and you're left here to decompose. It's a good thing Adam's key went down the drain. If he had initially helped unshackle Lawrence, Lawrence would easily be able to grab the gun, shoot Adam, and win the game. Both Adam and Lawrence's strategies for winning the game and surviving are antagonistic to one another. Jigsaw was pretty explicit. Adam needs to prevent Lawrence from killing him before 6 p.m., and Lawrence needs to kill Adam by 6 p.m. I don't see any out-of-the-box way of beating this, so following the instructions on the tape is the only real option. Adam should feign helping Lawrence find a way out of here, but refrain from actually helping him in any manner, because ultimately it will come down to Lawrence using whatever he has to kill Adam and save his family. Likewise, Lawrence needs to feign that he's empathetic and has no interest in killing Adam in order to recruit his help solving the clues. Like the follow your heart, Jigsaw softly muttered on the tape.
Imagine. And the
This one
fucking
wasn't too
gore
hard,
gets
as
better.
there's a toilet with a big heart on it written in feces. Adam digs his hand around the shit-filled bowl and comes up empty and brown-handed before realizing that he should have checked the top compartment first. In it, there's a bag with 2 handsaws and then incriminating photos Adam took of Lawrence's affair. Adam neglects to share those with Lawrence. No need to stir conflict or give Lawrence any more information that he could use against you. Adam pulls the saws out and tosses Lawrence the spare. Shouldn't have done that. You know that saw isn't cutting through those shackles or padlocks. You know the corpse in the middle has a gun which Lawrence has the bullet for. And you know Lawrence's sole mission is to kill you. When that clock starts ticking down to 6 p.m., he will use that saw on his foot, grab the gun, and kill you to save his own ass and family. Maybe you don't want to overtly be antagonistic to Lawrence, in which case you could just try the saw on your own shackle and demonstrate how it won't help them, and that he doesn't need one. You could try to saw through the rusty pipe the shackles are tied around, but with how old and shitty those saws are, I don't think that would work at all. They both give up on sawing through the shackles, and Lawrence tells Adam that he thinks he knows who their captor is. He says that months ago, he was a suspect in the Jigsaw case, which we're going to flash back to. In the flashback, the police are investigating the shredded remains of Jigsaw's latest victim. He also had a cassette tape on him outlining the rules for the game.
Hello, Paul. You're a perfectly healthy, sane, middle-class man. But if you want to live,
fella panic dove belly first into the razor wire and started flailing around when he got stuck. The flailing caused the razors to rip deep into his flesh, so deep that his stomach acid was found on the ground. Within minutes, he was dead from blood loss. The best way to beat this trap is to do the opposite of what he did, and go low and slow. It's hard to tell how big the cage maze is, but it doesn't seem that big, and with 2 hours, he should have enough time to slowly navigate them. By getting low, he removes an entire attack surface he could get cut from. I'm not sure whether you'd want to crawl face up or face down. Even though crawling face down mitigates exposure to your most vulnerable areas like your neck arteries, stomach, and groin, you're going to get caught up with razors sinking into your back and it will be very difficult to pull them out with your hands. With how slow you can go, I'd be inclined to go face up, shoulder crawling and using my hands to relocate the razor wires out and around my body as best as possible. Doing nothing isn't an option. I'm sure his family will report him missing, but it's highly unlikely the police will find him within the 7 to 10 days it will take for him to die of dehydration. I don't think the police will have many leads to go off of in this case. Jigsaw probably just read this guy's suicide attempt in the news and threw him into an unmarked van before placing him in this trap. Lawrence interrupts the flashback with a stupid monologue saying that Jigsaw wasn't really a murderer, that technically he never killed anyone, that he found ways for people to kill themselves. I'm pretty sure you'd still be tried as a murderer. Judge, I only stripped them down naked and imprisoned them in an underground maze of razor wire under a time constraint which they will need to reach the exit by, or it'll be sealed off and they'll be left to starve to death. They basically killed themselves by choice. The next crime scene the police show up to is that of a charred corpse in a room of glass with a vault in the middle and red numbers painted all over the walls. He too has a cassette tape.
Oh, Mark, if you're so sick, then why do I have so many photos of you up and about? Let's put your so-called illness to the test.
So this guy was murdered for playing hooky? Oh, sorry, so because this guy played hooky, he was lawfully relocated into a situation which happened to be potentially dangerous in which he somehow found a way to kill himself. That's one of the lamest reasons for killing someone I've heard. Literally everyone has done this at least once in their lives. Maybe this poor guy needed a mental health day and his employer was a raging dick. How did Jigsaw even find this guy? Did he explicitly go out looking for someone who called in sick too much? What is too much? Because like we said, everyone's done this from time to time. Did Jigsaw just follow a guy who was out walking in the park during the workday and see if he was calling in sick? Or did he get a job somewhere just to find someone who called in sick too much? What the fuck is Jigsaw doing? There is absolutely zero shortage of criminals and downright horrible people walking free. Why not choose them? Like the man in the razor wire, this guy panicked, started frantically running around with a candle, and caught the tip of the flame. The best way to beat this trap is again taking your time, methodically trying each combination in order so you don't repeat or miss a combination. Most slow-acting poisons will give you hours if not days before you succumb to them. You should have plenty of time. The room seems well lit enough to where you don't need to wave the candle in front of your face in order to see the numbers. Using the candle just unnecessarily risks combustion of the flammable ectoplasmic goo you're covered in. The glass on the floor shouldn't be a problem either considering you have shoes on. The most difficult aspect of this trap is the vault itself. We have no idea if it's a 3 or 4 combination lock, so the possible combinations we need to try just doubled. Not only that, but if you aren't familiar with these combination locks, you won't know how to clear the combination, which direction you need to turn the dial for each combination number, and how many times to pass each combination number before stopping on it. Shit. I didn't realize they were this complicated until I looked into it. Since the vault is only carrying an antidote and shouldn't be too heavy, I might opt to cradle it and use it as a battering ram against the brick wall. Most brick walls, especially old ones like in this room, will start to crumble under repeated assault. It takes some time, but not more than trying 1,000 combinations, which may or may not work. It's more of a sure bet in my opinion. Jigsaw might have had a loose connection with the razor wire guy, but Mr. Hooky is a different story. In order to know that this guy was calling in sick all the time, Jigsaw would have either had to be working with him or had access to his cell phone records where he could find out that this guy was calling in sick and not just taking PTO. The police should be cross-checking everyone at his work and his recent personal life and who had records or phone taps on him. The biggest breakthrough, almost suspiciously so, is the pen light Jigsaw supposedly left behind. They run the prints and find the pen light's owner, which is none other than Dr. Lawrence Gordon. Lawrence was working on Sean Kramer's brain tumor situation when the police arrived and questioned him about how his penlight ended up at a murder scene. He gives them his alibi of going to a seedy motel to have an affair with a med student that night, which checks out. An alibi could be faked pretty easily, especially for a mastermind such as Jigsaw. But if Lawrence wasn't Jigsaw, then whoever Jigsaw is or worked with visited this hospital in order to grab the penlight. The police should be investigating anyone who might have come into contact with Lawrence. Janitors, doctors, patients, orderlies, everyone. As well as the camera footage looking for any suspicious behavior or anyone swiping Lawrence's gear. Since we know that Jigsaw always has a relatively deep connection with his targets, it would likely be an employee or frequent patient. The detectives should run the audio of the previous victim's tapes past Lawrence to see if he recognized the voice and can make a connection. While the voice masker was applied, it's not done sufficiently enough to separate the man from the voice.
Find the path through the razor wire to the door.
I'm pretty confident Lawrence could identify this as John Kramer, and the ensuing investigations would have uncovered his side hustle. After much deliberation, I can't think of any rational reason for Jigsaw framing Lawrence, bringing a ton of police attention to him and then using him as a victim in his next trap. This was a high-risk, low-reward move that provided the police with leads they could follow back to him. I get that Jigsaw's not overly concerned with discretion as he leaves his victims' mangled corpses in the traps for the police to find and uses his Jigsaw calling card to gain notoriety and spread his twisted social justice message as far as possible, but this poor frame job easily could have ended his career. Calling card or not, the most successful serial killers target completely random people they haven't established any connection with. The police ask Lawrence to listen to the testimony of a woman named Amanda that had escaped a trap Jigsaw put her in to see if it jogs his memory about the penlight, and to gauge his reaction to seeing the victim. Amanda starts telling her story of waking up with a metal contraption on her head and Jigsaw breaking the bad news. He tells her that the device is hooked into her upper and lower jaws, and when the timer at the back goes off, her mouth will be permanently ripped open, like a reverse bear trap. He's nice enough to give a demonstration. He then goes on to say that there's one key to unlock the device, but it's in the stomach of her dead cellmate. Amanda, as all do and justifiably so, panics, tries to rip her restraints off and take the reverse bear trap off her head. Getting up pulled a pin on the jawbreaker and initiated the countdown. There really was no way to know that that would happen or prevent it. Even if she did try to turn around and assess her situation calmly, the wire was short enough that it would have pulled regardless. Jigsaw never told her how much time she had, but the ticking sound every second would strongly suggest to her that she has less than 60 seconds to grab the knife and start digging through the corpse for the key. Only the dead man isn't dead. Amanda doesn't have a choice here. She's seconds away from getting her head cracked wide open. It's do or die, you or him. The aggressive fist stabs are not the way to go with the scalpel. She's just causing excessive hemorrhaging and mashing up the guts into an unrecognizable mess. She needs to create a large circular incision to remove a layer of skin over the top right of his upper abdomen so she can actually identify and locate the stomach. And that is important. The stomach is in the upper right area of your abdomen, right around your lower ribs. Not your belly. That's where your intestines are. If you fuck that up, you just died. Once the stomach is located, she just needs to create another incision to open it up and snag the key to unlock the headpiece and throw it off. The police tell Lawrence that even though Jigsaw said that the man with the key in his stomach was dead, and even though Jigsaw said he wasn't lying, the man was alive, just doped up on enough opiates to where he couldn't move or feel anything. It's fucked up, but it could have been a lot worse for the both of them. He could have been strapped to a chair completely sober. He got to go out feeling calm, relaxed, and in a state of euphoria. We never hear why this guy was murdered by Jigsaw. He never had a chance of survival, which seems really unfair and unsportsmanlike. The police also mentioned that Amanda was a drug addict before all this. Maybe that's why she was chosen. Yeah, it's kind of a mystery because this trap didn't exhibit the previous theme of overcoming personal flaws. It was almost like he came up with this cool head contraption and wanted to find any excuse to put it on someone for his twisted amusement. Okay, maybe it was more of a choose life thing and the drugged man was a representation of her on drugs, but it's still ridiculous. The lifelong PTSD caused by this is not going to improve her drug addiction whatsoever. Why am I even still on this? Jigsaw's clearly not in the business of rehabilitation. Sure, Amanda said Jigsaw helped her, but we all know that's not true. I mean, the sheer fact that she said killing someone and almost getting her jaw removed from her head helped her is evidence that it didn't help her. Quite the opposite. In fact, if I was the detective, I'd be trailing this broad. From Tapp's perspective, her Stockholm Syndrome, coupled with a psycho like Jigsaw's infatuation with his victims, especially the rare ones that escape, means there's a chance she will lead them to him. We know from the beginning that Amanda was helping Jigsaw set the game up, so realistically, trailing her could very well have led them to Jigsaw. The important piece of information that Lawrence can use from this trip down memory lane is that it's possible to be free if you win the game, even though Jigsaw lied about some aspects of the game. Adam then picks up a piece of glass and realizes it's actually a two-way mirror, so he chucks a bunch of scrap at the bathroom mirror and breaks it, which uncovers the hidden camera recording them. Why even hide the camera in the first place, if by design the victims know it's a game and they're being watched to see if they achieve their goals? And if you were going to hide a camera for whatever reason, why would you leave extra fragments of two-way mirror glass on the ground? With the clock ticking down, Lawrence realizes he needs to start playing the game or bad shit's gonna happen to him and his family. He remembers that Jigsaw mentioned in the tape that there are numerous ways for him to win, and that X marks the spot for the treasure. He asks Adam to help him find the X under the context of it being beneficial to them both finding a way out of here. Remember, this is the last man standing game with no successful cooperative strategy. Adam should know that he would literally be helping Lawrence obtain a way to kill him.
Be the calm doctor guy when your wife and kid are out there. He's got them too. He could be doing anything to them right now. You thinking about that?
I am thinking about that.
Adam comes across as impulsive and naive, so I don't think this was a calculated move. It was a great move though, because it distracted Lawrence and is spending precious time reminiscing about his family instead of making progress, without seeming too obvious that Adam's trying to stall him. In his flashback to the night of his abduction, he was working late when his daughter came to him scared of a bad man in her closet. I know kids have overactive imaginations, and it's probably nothing, but I'd be grabbing the 9mm from the nightstand. Lawrence doesn't even check the closet. He just tells her a bedtime story before getting paged for an emergency. He neglects to check his wallet for clues, even though every possession was included for a reason, and passes it to Adam to show him pictures of his wife and daughter. Only the picture of his wife was replaced with a picture of his family captive with a note on the back reading, X marks the spot. Sometimes you see more with your eyes shut. Instead of telling Lawrence, he just says it's not here and throws the wallet back to him. Maybe Adam is more devious than he appears. This was another solid move that took a clue out of Lawrence's hands without being obvious about it. We get some more backstory on the night Lawrence was abducted. After he left, his family was subdued and tied up by a man in the closet that Lawrence didn't check. If only Lawrence was paranoid and armed, actually checked the closet and gunned down Zep. Now his family is tied up with Zep getting off to their increased heart rate when he waves a pistol in their face. Zep then parts the curtains and shoves his face up to the window to, I guess, check if anyone called the cops. He does have a reason to be paranoid. Lawrence was under investigation after Jigsaw found him with a pen light he stole, but for that same reason, bare-facing the window the police are possibly watching is a bad idea. Detective Tapp was staking out Lawrence and was able to snap a picture of Zep peeping his head out. It was a bad photo when maybe he couldn't identify the person with it alone, but Tapp can use this opportunity to tail him when he leaves, or confront Lawrence with this evidence as well as cross-check it with anyone Lawrence had frequent contact with at the hospital. The frame job was 5 months ago, so why is Tapp so unrelenting in staking out Lawrence's house? Did he literally get nothing from looking at the connection between Jigsaw and the hospital, or did he just not check in tunnel vision on the target of the obvious frame job? Yeah, probably the latter. Looks like we're gonna find out in this flashback inside a flashback to just after Tapp questioned Lawrence and dropped him off at home. Later that night, when Tapp was reviewing the tapes, he recognized a gang sign on the wall and heard a fire alarm in the background of the tape. By cross-checking the gang sign location with what fire department responded to an emergency that night, they were able to locate an old mannequin factory which they believed is where Jigsaw's operation was. Anxious to bag Jigsaw, these wannabe action heroes load up and bust down the front door without any information, planning, or backup. Hastily rolling on a guy that's known for making traps isn't the smartest idea. Instead of breaking in right off the bat, maybe stake it out first. Tail whoever comes and goes, get their license plate, visual profile, home address, and get a proper warrant. Then, once Jigsaw enters the building, you can send in SWAT teams who are vastly better trained and equipped to bag someone like this. Inside the factory, there are dioramas of traps and a man locked up in between two drill bits. This is Jigsaw's operation, alright. Someone starts coming up the elevator, so they hide to try to ambush him. Tap and Sing get the drop on Jigsaw, but all of a sudden become good cops that want to do things the right way. They broke in without a warrant at night. Tap's hungry for vengeance. This dude is clearly the bad guy. It's not unreasonable for them in their position to shoot first and ask questions later, especially since Jigsaw is the slippery mastermind and you're on his turf. At least kneecap him. Great. Now Jigsaw triggered the trap, and this poor guy's gonna get Frankensteined in under 30 seconds. Tap has every possible right to blast this guy right here, right now. As for the victim, Sing doesn't need to find the keys. He just needs to find the power cable and shoot it, or just shoot the padlock off. Tap really needs to get some distance between him and Jigsaw so this doesn't end in a tug of war for the gun.
I'm sick of it all.
Damn it, Tap, all you had to do was keep him at arm's length or put a hole in his pelvis. Now Jigsaw's getting away and you're on the ground with your throat slit. Sing runs after Jigsaw and fires some buckshot into his back. It looks like a kill shot, but at this point, I'd pump a few more shots off into his corpse to confirm the kill. Don't want him scurrying away or flipping around with a gun. Again, there is every reason to suspect that a mastermind who designs human traps for a living will have trapped his own operation in case he was compromised like this. Sing tunnel visions on the hooded man and accidentally trips one of them. Tap tries to help, but only
But there's still stuff.
only gets there in time to see Sing's headless body and Jigsaw getting away. This would explain his unrelenting desire to track down Jigsaw and why he was taken off the force, but it doesn't explain why he's tracking Lawrence so aggressively. Hooded man's voice and figure simply don't match up. I also have a hard time believing that the ensuing police raid didn't yield any usable evidence. All these flashbacks cost Lawrence a lot of time. He now just has over 2 hours remaining to kill Adam. Better start looking for that X unless you want to lose a leg. Adam, remembering what the picture said, comes up with the idea to turn the lights off, which reveals a glow-in-the-dark painted X that was charged by the lights being on. Behind the X, there's a box. It's padlocked, so Adam tosses the key back to Lawrence so he can open it. Adam, why are you helping Lawrence? He has to kill you or him and his family die. Remember? The box contains a note, cell phone, lighter, and cigarette. Lawrence secretly reads the note, which says, "The cigarettes are harmless, I promise. Smoking is only poisonous when it ends in bloodshed. Think about this. You don't need a gun to kill Adam." Adam foolishly wants to smoke the cigarette, regardless of the fact that it's a blatantly horrible decision. This method of Lawrence winning the game was obviously devised to play on Adam's cigarette addiction. The phone wasn't mentioned in the note though. Lawrence tries calling 911 with it, but the phone was altered to only be able to receive calls, not make them. The tampered phone somehow rings the bell for Lawrence and sparks another flashback to the night he was abducted. He was finishing up at the hospital and walking back to his car when he got the feeling someone was watching him. That feeling was triggered by Adam moronically leaving the flash on in a dark parking lot while snapping ninja pictures of Lawrence. Lawrence hops into his Beamer and tries to make a phone call. His cell doesn't work, so he stops to try the payphone, which doesn't work either. While he's distracted, someone in a pig mask sneaks out of his car and runs up on him. Why didn't the pigman piano wire his neck while he was in the car? Abducting someone out in the open without a quick getaway is much riskier. Just saying. I still don't get the backseat abduction though. If your target has half a brain or decent peripherals, they're gonna be checking the backseat before getting in and they will see you. Especially if you're a dumbass wearing a pig mask and a red suit. I can just see Jigsaw tucked into the back seat trying to scrunch in low, hearing a knock on the window and wondering if Lawrence saw him or just accidentally hit the window. He slowly turns around and sees Lawrence with a pistol waving for him to step out of his vehicle. After wasting more time storytelling, Lawrence asks Adam how he knew to turn the lights off. Adam hesitates to answer at first, but eventually gives in and hands over the picture of his captive wife and daughter with a note on the back. Good going, Adam. You just provided massive motivation for Lawrence to kill you. Yes, Lawrence already heard on the cassette tape that his family was in jeopardy, but it wasn't as real until now. Lawrence remembers the tape which said that the man in the middle had poison in his blood, and the note from the box which said that cigarettes are only deadly when they end in bloodshed. Putting two and two together, he secretly dabs the cigarette that Adam was desperate to smoke in the corpse's poison-filled blood. Great. Lawrence doesn't need to chop his foot off to get the gun to kill Adam with. He can just toss the cig and lighter over to Adam, watch him slowly die, win the game, and save him and his family. From the flashbacks, he knows that this will end badly for him if he doesn't win, and that winning is an option. Instead of playing his hand, he sacrifices it by flipping the lights off and secretly telling Adam all about the death sticks and the charade he's planning. Lawrence's plan is to have Adam fake smoke the poison cigarette and fake die so Lawrence can fake win, and when their captor comes in to free Lawrence, they can kill him and then ride off into the sunset on their ivory stallions. This is a massively flawed plan. If your captor has a decent microphone or a camera with night mode, he will hear and see every detail. Even if he's using a shitty camera and mic, which he stupidly is, you still don't know what type of poison was put in the blood, nor what its effects are and how long these effects will take to kick in. Without knowing what type of poison was used, Adam couldn't possibly sell the fake death, and you can be sure Adam's gonna do a horrible job acting this whole thing out anyways. Lawrence flips the lights back on and starts the show. If I was Adam, I still wouldn't trust Lawrence. He didn't have to tell you about the poison, so he's probably being honest, but you could fake smoke it instead of taking a full drag on it. Adam's faking is ridiculous. Nobody's buying that shit. Jigsaw uses his taser remote to shock Adam so Zep can see that Lawrence didn't actually win his game yet. Should have given him the actual poison. The shock jolted Adam's memory about his abduction, or so he says. I think he's just reverting to stalling Lawrence because his plan failed and now he's gonna have to try to kill Adam. Adam starts telling the story of how he woke up in his dark room with the power out, then heard some strange noises in his living room which he went to check out. Really, Jigsaw? You put your doll on his couch with a Halloween noisemaker? Why? You didn't even use that as a distraction to nab him from behind. Adam hears someone making noise in the closet and grabs a bat to check it out. If I was Adam, I'd be leaving my apartment right now and calling the cops. Why would you, a weak, unarmed, untrained person, willingly engage in a hand-to-hand fight with an intruder? It's not gonna end well for you. Adam's not the only idiot here. Hiding in someone's closet and making a bunch of noise to bait them to open said closet is a terrible way to abduct someone. You have no escape route if things go south. Like if the other person brought friends over, they had a knife or gun, or they called the cops and waited outside the apartment. By the time Adam wraps his story up, Lawrence has 23 minutes left on the clock. He doesn't seem motivated to start hacking away at his foot yet. No matter, part of Zep's instructions was to call Lawrence and have his wife and daughter give him some motivation. His daughter tells him a man has them tied up with a gun, and his wife tells him not to believe Adam's lies, that Adam knows him. Lawrence wastes more time confronting Adam about his lies. Does it even matter what Adam has to say? You know what you need to do. Adam should just be honest about being hired to tail Lawrence as a private investigator. Sure, it'll piss Lawrence off, but it doesn't give him any more reason to kill you than he already has. It actually helps Adam by wasting more of Lawrence's time. Adam flicks the pictures he took of Lawrence's affair at him and says he was stalking Lawrence the night he was abducted, but had left when Lawrence got in his car, so he didn't see who abducted him. Lawrence questions Adam about who hired him, thinking that must be the person who put them in here. Adam says that he was hired by a tall black man with a scar on his neck. Lawrence immediately figures that this was Agent Tapp. Tapp must have hired Adam because Lawrence had a restraining order on him and couldn't get close. After their fight, Adam double takes one of his pictures, realizing there's a face in it. You just now remember that you took a picture of some random guy at Lawrence's house the night you were both abducted. He throws it to Lawrence, who identifies the man as Zep, the orderly from the hospital. Why was this picture of Zep at Lawrence's house placed in the bathroom? Now Lawrence and Adam both know who Zep is. If either of them win and get free, they will report Zep to the police, who will report John Kramer to the police. Zep is in a game he can't win. He either dies from poisoning or gets thrown in the slammer. Zep could choose to complete the game, get the antidote, and flee to a non-extradition country, or he could immediately report Jigsaw to the police and check himself into a hospital. When Zep isn't looking, Lawrence's wife slips her restraints and patiently waits for her moment to strike. Lawrence fails to kill Adam and is now officially out of time. He knows from the previous Jigsaw cases that Jigsaw doesn't fuck around. His family will be executed and he will be left here to rot. Zep draws his 1911 and then gives Lawrence one last call so he can hear his wife telling him he failed before she catches a bullet in her teeth. Jigsaw, you sadistic son of a bitch. The call is a nice touch, but telegraphing your blatant intention to kill the wife and daughter in front of their faces like this is just going to incite a ferocious last stand. It's better for you if they don't see it coming. His other mistake was leaving them in a room by themselves with poorly tied rope restraints. If you're gonna do that, at least check the restraints every time you re-enter the room to make sure they didn't slip them. Lawrence gets the call, Allison tells him that he failed, but right before Zep domes her, she snatches his gun from him. Unfortunately, she lacks the nerve to kill and makes the all too common mistake of getting within arm's reach, which gives Zep the opportunity to grab for the gun back. Good thing Tap heard the shots because Allison's losing control over the gun. In a last-ditch move, she shanks his leg with the hair clippers. Why the hell does everyone always go for the leg? The same thing happened in my last video on The Hills Have Eyes. And look how well that worked out for Lynn. People, you need to go for the throat. Instead of capitalizing on Zep being stunned, she runs for her daughter. Allison, you need to stomp out Zep when he's down. Priorities. Your daughter being freed won't help you if Zep gets up and guns you both down. Lucky for her, Tap comes in guns hot before Zep can finish the job. Tap runs out of ammo and tackles Zep to the ground. Zep stuns Tap with a flower vase to the head and runs after Allison and her daughter. Why is nobody seizing the kill when they have the chance? It would take 2 seconds to put one in Tap's chest before running after the family. Zep can't find Allison and her daughter, so he runs back to the warehouse to kill Lawrence. His plan is really falling apart here. I don't think he's going to be getting that antidote anymore. Tap tracks Zep to the warehouse in the most legit car chase I've ever seen. They get into a scuffle, which ends with Zep shooting Tap in the chest. Allison and her daughter safely emerged from their hiding spot, but the problem is that all Lawrence heard on the phone was gunshots and screaming. For all he knows, they got mowed down. He breaks down crying and gets electrocuted until he foams at the mouth. Why was he electrocuted? I get shocking Adam for fake dying, but this seemed unnecessary. Allison calls back on the phone to tell them that they were safe, but it's just out of reach because when Lawrence was electrocuted, the phone got knocked out of his hand. He could flip the box around to give him a little bit more reach so he could snag the phone, but just gives up trying to retrieve it. Lawrence giving up on getting the phone leads to him freaking out and irrationally deciding to cut his leg off so he could shoot Adam in an attempt to salvage his game. A little late on that, Chief. If Lawrence had gotten the phone, hearing how his family was safe would have prevented this freakout. Before sawing his leg off at the ankle, he tries to apply a makeshift tourniquet with his shirt. If you've seen my other videos, you know his execution is terrible. He basically over-unders his blouse and pulls it slightly tight like it's a fucking shoelace. And this guy's supposed to be a surgeon. There is no way this adequately cut off blood circulation. He finishes sawing his foot off, grabs his revolver, puts it around in the chamber, and takes a shot at Adam from across the room. If you were Lawrence, you'd want to get as close as possible before firing. Most people will have trouble hitting a human-sized target from 7 yards away. Zep arrives and tries to kill Lawrence, but Adam sweeps his leg and bashes his brains in with a toilet cover. I'm surprised Adam had it in him. Nice job. With the door wide open and Lawrence free from his shackle, he tells Adam he's going to leave and get help. Adam checks Zep's clothing to see if he had a key to his shackle and finds another cassette player, which reveals how Zep was not only their captor, but another victim in the same game.
Collecting poison coursing through your system, which only I have the antidote. Listen carefully, if you will. There are rules.
The big twist moment hits when the corpse dressed as a suicide victim in the middle of the room gets up and reveals himself to be Jigsaw. Realizing your captor was right in front of you this whole time has to be a bitch of a revelation. In the beginning, I laid out how this corpse might not have been dead, and that they should check it if they get the chance. However, I don't think this would have helped. They had no way of knowing that this was Jigsaw, and no way of attacking him. Even if they had gotten free, threatening and attacking Jigsaw would have just resulted in them getting electrocuted to death. When Jigsaw fully wakes up, he tells Adam that the key to his shackle was in the bathtub. Yeah, it actually went down the drain. If you wanted the key to serve a purpose, you should have hidden it somewhere else with clues to it. It seems like he was trying to tell Adam how to free himself because technically he won the game. Adam's understandably pretty pissed off right now and tries to kill Jigsaw with Zepp's pistol, but Jigsaw tasers him before he can get the shot off.
Game over.
Adam trying to kill Jigsaw may have changed his mind on letting Adam live. But what was Jigsaw expecting? That Adam was going to be grateful and cordial? Later in the sequels, we find out that Amanda was having nightmares about Adam and had gone back into the bathroom to put him out of his misery by suffocating him with a plastic bag. Not much mercy for a man who technically won the game. What makes Adam's death even more fucked up is that after Jigsaw left Adam to die, he found Lawrence passed out in the hallway from his attempt to cauterize his leg on a steam pipe. And instead of finishing Lawrence off for losing the game, he allows Lawrence to live, fits him with a prosthetic foot, and later brings him on as an apprentice at Team Jigsaw. Then again, you can't really expect a serial killer to be honest and fair with you. Let's recap the pivotal moments where a different decision could have altered who lived or died. In my opinion, Zepp had the motive and the means to single-handedly take down Jigsaw and Amanda. This would have saved Adam's life and ensured that Lawrence didn't end up working for Jigsaw in the future. Jigsaw left a ton of leads which the detectives should have been able to use to track him down. His voice on the cassettes, Amanda's testimony, the penlight, etc. Ultimately they did, but hesitated to pull the trigger once they caught him. Sing's death, as well as the pain and suffering of all of Jigsaw's future victims enabled by Tap's pathetic failure, is mind-blowing. Razor Wire Guy and Hooky Guy both might have been able to escape their traps had they calmed down and thought things through a bit before bum rushing the traps. All said and done, I think we could have beaten the traps from Saw with less life and limb lost. Thanks for watching, and remember, actually, I don't really have anything for this. If you find yourself in one of these situations, you're probably fucked. Peace.
Hey, wait!
Damn.
Shit! Just saw the FIB turn up on the security feed. They took a load of documents. Get after them. Whatever information they've got, we need.
If you woke up in a house being filled with poison gas and were told to follow a trapped treasure hunt to find the antidotes, what would you do? In this How to Beat video, we'll follow Jigsaw's latest victims, see if we can make better decisions, and ultimately attempt to beat the traps in Saw 2. Think you can do better? Let us know in the comments. Enjoy these How to Beat videos? Like and subscribe. Have a movie you'd like me to cover? Reply to this comment. If you haven't seen my video on Saw 1, go check it out and see how all of this pain and suffering in this sequel could have been prevented. This video's sponsor is Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is a mythical RPG world packed with fearsome champions, all from their own unique factions which have deep intertwined lore. Sounds cool? Check the game out by using my link below to download Raid on mobile or PC. Want to hear more about the badass champions you'll be commanding? Meet the Banner Lords. The Banner Lords are basically medieval knights and are one of the few completely human factions in Teleria. They believe themselves to be on the side of good, but the orcs, Ogryn, skinwalkers, and lizardmen would disagree. The lands of the Banner Lords were taken from the non-humans by force and kept through centuries of persecution with the help of the Sacred Order. Now, with the Banner Lords weakened by wars of their king, it may be time for them to right an ancient wrong. At the front of the line, we have Lord Champfort leading his men into battle with the Tower Shield and giant poleaxe. Coming around the flank is Killian the Lucky, leading the cavalry with his giant green lance. Sneaking up on the enemy's rear and cutting their throats is Alarak the Hooded. I'd say these humans are not to be underestimated. There's lots of new content and things to do that came out this month. They're releasing 11 new champions and almost 200 brand new missions, with an exclusive legendary champion as your reward if you manage to finish them all. They also added 5 challenging levels to almost every single dungeon in the game. So what are you waiting for? Go to the video description, click on the links, and support my channel by downloading Raid Shadow Legends today. Alright, let's see if we can outsmart Jigsaw and his traps again. We start out following a guy named Michael. His name isn't important because he probably won't be with us for very long. Michael cranks the standing mirror over to see why his eye hurts so much. The results are inconclusive, but it's definitely not a sty. The TV turns on and an evil Dr. Phil tells him that his career as a police informant is over, unless he proves himself worthy. The rules of the game are as follows.
The device around your neck is a death mask. If you do not locate the key in time, the mask will close. Think of it like a Venus flytrap.
The funny thing about the key he needs is that it's located in the clear jelly-like core of his eyeball. This takes the phrase "snitches get stitches" to an entirely new level. Man, this makes Amanda seem lucky. She got to scalpel someone else. Michael has to scalpel himself. Jigsaw doesn't provide a demonstration for this trap, but I think it's pretty clear what will happen when this nail-filled mask slams shut. Michael's first course of action is to scream for help, which beautifully reverberates around the concrete basement he's entombed in. The wire attached to his head contraption isn't helping the claustrophobic feeling of being in here, so he yanks it off. Unfortunately, this triggered the spring-loaded clock. Based on the ticking sound, he's got 60 seconds. You can make cupcake baking stressful by adding a timer. This guy's head is inside a nail-filled Venus flytrap with seconds before it closes. He better be able to think clearly under stress. The first thing he sees is a little box on the ground next to him, which has a scalpel in it. You could take the scalpel as a bad sign, or cringe at the thought of slitting your eyeball open like a Pokeball, but at least you have the scalpel. It could be worse. Jigsaw could have left him with nothing and forced him to dig his fingers into his eye socket and rip his eyeball out to get the key. Michael can't muster up the nerve to dig through his eye before the time runs out and his game ends. Let's rewind and see what Michael could have done to beat this trap without performing surgery on himself. Right off the bat, he shouldn't have yanked the wire out, which initiated the countdown and caused his stress levels to go nuclear. I think this is a reasonable error he could have avoided. When Jigsaw was talking about the spring-loaded timer on his death mask, Michael had felt around and located a circular device with a glass face which was attached to the wire. He could have also confirmed this by using the mirror. It's not a stretch to think that in order for a spring-loaded timer to be activated, something holding the spring loaded has to be removed. It should have been obvious that it was the wired pin inserted into the timer. The next move would be to try to figure out a way to dismantle the pulley system, which could pull the wire and set the trap off. Even with the trigger disarmed, you'd still want to get the bear trap off your head in case it was set off somehow. Using the mirror and feeling around, he'd see that his head contraption was mounted on a leather harness with a waistband and shoulder straps secured by padlocks. The device looks like a single-piece design that was slipped over his head. What also makes me think that is that the key he needs to find unlocks the padlocks on his harness, not the device. He could use the scalpel to cut the straps and lift the device off over his head. If Michael had pulled the pin and started the timer by accident, I still think he could have cut the leather straps off in time to slip the device off before it snapped shut. If I'm wrong and it is a two-piece design that was tightly fitted around his neck and couldn't be lifted off, well, then that sucks, especially if he's on the clock. His only option besides getting the key is to jam the device by either shoving the flimsy toolbox in between the levers by his neck or put the metal stool over his head. Bear traps can exert up to 1,000 pounds of pressure, so I'd go with the stool and not the thin metal box. Michael circumventing this trap by jamming it or cutting himself loose might not be enough to beat it if he's locked into a concrete cell. Jigsaw usually requires his victims to sacrifice their pound of flesh in order to be freed, so the door may not be opened for him until he obtains the key. Digging through his vitreous humor to find the key to the door is still a last-ditch move. I'd try to wait a few days before putting myself under the knife in hopes that someone found me. Turns out this was a good call. Michael's body was found by county asbestos cleaners a day or so later. Detective Allison Carey is the lead on the case, but she brings Detective Eric Matthews in because Michael was his informant. Or I should say, they think the body was his informant, based on the writings on the ceiling and the videotapes.
Let me get a look at his face. I'll tell you in 2 seconds if it's him or not.
Therein lies the problem.
Eric is able to identify the body as his informant based on a tattoo, so Allison pries further to see if he has any idea who would be capable of engineering all this. Eric's no Jim Gordon. He's completely unmotivated to take on this case with the backdrop of his crumbling family life, even after being called out by Jigsaw himself. Back at the police station, Allison's reviewing the tapes trying to find clues. She's not very good at her job, so she ropes Eric in to take Jigsaw's bait and hopes that she can catch a lead off of it. Look, I'm no detective, but does following a serial killer's clues ever really help you? They wouldn't have given you a clue if they thought it'd lead to them getting caught. Eric wakes up in the middle of the night when he's suddenly hit with the realization that Michael's device had the logo of the abandoned Wilson Steel factory on it. Obvious bait, but Eric thinks he's more clever than he actually is, and calls Allison with the news. Allison should know from investigating Jigsaw's previous victims that he isn't stupid, and wouldn't leave clues out like this unless he wanted them to show up at the factory and play another one of his games. What would I do if I was Allison? Not go into the factory. Has Allison already forgotten what happened to Detective Tappan Singh? Besides being dangerous as hell, you're just playing into his hand. I would get the blueprint for the factory and stake out all the exits. Jigsaw wants us to run into his funhouse. He wants us to play his game. By playing hard to get, Jigsaw might emerge from hiding in order to tempt our attention again. Again, Allison's a shitty detective with no leads so far, so she's perfectly fine letting Eric walk right into a trap. Hey, at least they got a warrant and called in a SWAT team instead of bum rushing in like Detective Tappan Singh did in Saw 1. The SWAT team makes entry, but as expected, the factory is trapped. The other SWAT operators apparently didn't hear the buzzing sound of the metal fencing being electrified, or thought it was just the sound of the lights. The rest of the SWAT team pushes through to the second floor and finds Jigsaw doodling out some new trap designs while eating Cheerios. They cuff him up and Eric rolls in to drop his one-liner that he was practicing on the drive over.
Is this close enough?
This just shows Eric's naivety and why he shouldn't be on the case. When taking down the evil mastermind is this easy, and they're that calm when apprehended, you should be wondering how you're getting played instead of getting cocky. Jigsaw tells Eric that instead of going straight to a jail cell, he'll hang out here while Eric deals with a problem in the room across from them. Right about now, it should be hitting them that they fucked up coming here. The SWAT team captain tosses a pipe to the fencing to make sure it's not electrified, which is a good call considering what happened earlier. Eric and Allison enter and uncover a bunch of monitors displaying Jigsaw's latest victims in a trap. One of those victims is Daniel, Eric's son.
About 2 hours. before the gas creeping into his nervous system begins to break down his body tissue.
What happened to the United States does not negotiate with terrorists. Throw this demented cancer patient in a hole and throw away the hole. He thinks he has leverage because he thinks he can get you to play his game. Villains like Jigsaw orchestrate their escapes by throwing victims at the police as distractions. The way to end it is by not negotiating. You just take the L on those victims and eliminate the target. It's not the most political move, but it stops the shit dead in its tracks and heavily disincentivizes future terrorists because it's no longer an effective strategy. It's like John Wick dome-shotting Santino in the Continental. If Allison wanted to take the trophy home on the Jigsaw case, this is the out-of-the-box thinking that Jigsaw would not expect whatsoever. Of course, she'd have to take charge and pull Eric off the case ASAP before Jigsaw got Eric too emotionally invested, because in this situation, taking the L on the victims means his son might die. Eric calls his son's phone number and Jigsaw tells him to leave a message after the beep. Yep, it's confirmed. His son's in deep shit. But everyone needs to take a deep breath here. Jigsaw's trying to get everyone tilted. Let's think this through. From Allison's investigation of all of Jigsaw's previous cases, she would know that he often speaks with loaded phrases that are more literal than they seem. So Eric needs to be relaying everything he hears Jigsaw say to Allison, especially things like this.
He's in a safe place.
This completely contradicts what he just said moments earlier about Daniel having 2 hours before the poisonous gas breaks his tissue down and floods his lungs with blood. The 2 hours thing is bothering me for another reason too. Jigsaw says that he hasn't checked the monitors in a bit, but he thinks that they have about 2 hours left before they're dead. This is a tight timeline, too tight. I don't really buy that Jigsaw put the victims in there and timed the police arrival perfectly so that there was 2 hours remaining before the gas killed the victims. He even put a clock in there with 2 hours counting down. If Eric hadn't had his revelation quickly enough, hesitated a little, or the police just didn't gear up and make it to the factory as quickly as they did, the victims would all be dead and the metagame involving Eric wouldn't work. The counterpoints would be that Jigsaw had the gas flow on remote and triggered it when the police showed up, or that he had help that triggered it when the police showed up to the factory. It does make sense that he had help. A late-stage cancer patient wouldn't be able to snare 7 people and drag them into a trap room. These both still don't explain the incredibly coincidental timing of when they showed up to the factory and when the victims woke up, found the cassette tape, and started progressing through the trap. For all they know, this isn't real-time footage at all. They need to bring in a computer forensics team to start investigating the feed and the broadcasting location, which they do, as well as bring in a bomb squad team to help the SWAT team turn this factory inside out looking for anything useful, which they don't do. Apparently, everyone thinks that sitting on their asses watching Jigsaw's reality TV is gonna solve the case. Jigsaw tells Eric that he just wants to talk to him alone, which Eric reluctantly agrees to. He does sneak a radio in too so Allison can listen in.
I want to play a game. All you have to do is sit here and talk to me. Then you will find your son in a safe and secure state.
With Jigsaw in their custody, how could he possibly ensure the safety and security of Daniel by sitting here talking with Eric when Daniel's in a trapped house being filled with poison gas with 6 other desperate strangers? The most reasonable answer is he can't. Even if Jigsaw technically didn't specify whether Daniel would be dead or alive when returned, he still couldn't ensure that his corpse was in a safe and secure state. Based on the previous cases Allison is aware of, Jigsaw has honored the rules of the games he's created, even if he lies or doublespeaks about some aspects. And winning is an option. So if winning is an option for Eric, then technically the only way for Jigsaw to ensure the conditions and availability of the prize, aka Daniel, is to already have Daniel in a safe place somewhere. The fact that the time coordination between Eric and Daniel's game is highly implausible, and the outcome coordination of Daniel's game is near impossible, would make me very suspicious that this is pre-recorded footage. And the longer Daniel survives in the game on the monitor, the higher the probability that this is pre-recorded. They could also try to bluff Jigsaw by confronting him about how they know it's pre-recorded, that the screen feed is paused or stuck, that Daniel is dead and that they're taking him to jail now. Jigsaw can't see the monitors, so if he expressed that he knew anything, it'd be suspect. The interesting thing about this game is that Jigsaw is in police custody. If Eric puts on some Beethoven and kicks his feet up, Daniel will be returned to him and Jigsaw would go to jail. Seems like an outcome Jigsaw would want to avoid, but he might not care because he's almost dead, and whoever is helping him will continue his legacy. Still, not exactly a preferable way to go out. nor is it interesting. Jigsaw has demonstrated that he knows Eric's shady off-the-books tendencies. If I was Allison, I'd anticipate Jigsaw baiting Eric into doing something stupid to get his son back, which will entail wittingly or unwittingly helping Jigsaw escape. How could Eric possibly walk out of here with Jigsaw without them being able to follow? Well, if they paid attention, secured the blueprints for the building, and properly secured the area, they'd know that Jigsaw is sitting in a utility elevator right now. Convenient that he'd want to remain there for the duration of the game. I wouldn't bag Jigsaw right now, or let him know that I knew his plan. Daniel could still be anywhere, so we need Jigsaw to lead us to him. We start following the 7 unlucky contestants in the trap house being filled with poison gas. Well, they don't know that yet. While they definitely aren't in jail, they are being held captive with the camera watching their movements. Daniel graciously points out that these types of cameras don't have sound. A woman named Amanda, who we're all familiar with, wakes up with a look of horror and panic on her face. She immediately starts running around checking every nook and cranny until she finds the infamous cassette recorder. Not exactly a subtle move on her part. Now everyone knows that she knows what's going on. She hits play on the cassette recorder.
3 hours from now, the door to this house will open. Unfortunately, you only have 2 hours to live. Right now, you are breathing in a deadly nerve agent.
He then goes on to say that several antidotes are hidden around the house, one of which is in a safe in this room. He says that they each have the combination numbers for the safe written in the back of their minds, and the order of the numbers can be found over the rainbow. I don't see any rainbows, but maybe there's a box of Lucky Charms with instructions inside. Jigsaw also says that once they realize what they have in common, they will better understand why they are here. For this clue, X marks the spot. Finding out what they have in common doesn't sound like it leads to an antidote, so this is a total waste of time. There's no point in covering your mouth with clothing or anything like that. Nerve gas vapor can permeate your skin, so clothing or a paper mask won't stop it. Amanda should know from helping Jigsaw set up traps and being a previous victim that his phrasing is loaded and often literal. She should be checking the back of their heads and necks for numbers. This is later revealed to be where Jigsaw hid the numbers. The vault only contains one antidote based on Jigsaw's message, so she needs to be secretive about collecting the others' numbers, and then she needs to get herself alone with the vault so the others don't fight her for it. Amanda doesn't seem to have learned much from her time with Jigsaw. That or she's not actually a victim here. Xavier picks up a letter on the ground with a key attached to it. It says, "Do not attempt to use this key in the door to this room." Neglecting Amanda's warnings, Xavier tries to unlock the door with the key while Gus looks through the peephole. Okay, let's not break the rules from now on. This trap was odd. Why was the gun aimed through the peephole? It's extremely unlikely that someone would be looking through the peephole while they or someone else simultaneously unlock the door. It would make more sense to aim the barrel of the gun through the doorknob so that the bullet was directed straight into the person trying to open it. The other victims start questioning Amanda as to how she knew about the rules, the tape, and Jigsaw. Amanda tells them that she's played one of his games before. Yeah, I neglect to mention that I was Jigsaw's apprentice too. Everyone buys her half of the story and starts turning the room inside out trying to find the key to the vault with no luck. The door to the room suddenly opens by itself. It appears to have been on a time delay. They all start dispersing through the house looking for clues, but the more intelligent victims are also grabbing weapons. These antidotes are sparse. Unless this herd gets thinned out a lot, there won't be enough for all of them. It should go without saying that they should be treading very lightly and using extreme caution when manipulating any objects, unless they want to end up like Gus. That means not fixing crooked picture frames. Jesus, dude, that's one of the most well-known types of booby traps out there. Xavier tries using the spiked bat to break down the door labeled exit, but it's metal reinforced. Gee, I'm shocked that the door labeled exit wasn't actually an exit. I do think Xavier has the right idea. He's just thinking a little too in the box. This is an entire house, not a tiny concrete room. I highly doubt the entire building is covered in metal barricades. It's more likely that they just covered the weak points like windows and doors. The 7 of them with access to weapons and tools should be able to knock down a wall or break through the weaker ceilings within 2 hours. If they attempted this, they'd want to blind the cameras too, just in case their captor was watching and decided to up the gas flow for breaking the rules. Laura finds a door leading down into the basement, where they find another cassette tape stuck in a doll with a note for Abby.
Inside the device in front of you are 2 antidotes. One is my gift to you for helping me kidnap the others. The second is yours to donate. However, one of them will come with a price.
Well, Abby's dead. There is no way the others let him walk out of here after hearing that and Laura's witness testimony of Abby abducting her. Abby tries to save his own ass by volunteering to go into the furnace to get the needles, saying that he gets one if he makes it out. I know nobody wants to volunteer to go into an obviously trapped furnace, but putting 2 antidotes in the hands of the sociopath who kidnapped all of you isn't a good idea either. And really, if you don't get those antidotes, you're dead anyways. Jonas questions whether or not they should even be getting and sticking themselves with these needles, and up until now, I'd have agreed with him. But with everyone starting to collapse and cough up blood, I don't think they have a choice. Before going in, they should check for gas lines and shut them if possible, jam the door open, and have someone hold his feet ready to pull him out if shit goes south, as well as check for any additional engineering that was done to the furnace. They know from Gus and the peephole cannon that Jigsaw uses rather unsophisticated mechanics that they need to watch for, like this obvious pulley right next to the door that Abby completely misses. Again, I would not have sent the selfish bastard like Abby in, but since they did, they might as well ensure his safety, so he brings back the antidotes. Abby finds the antidotes dangling from chains hanging on the ceiling of the furnace. When he goes to pull the second antidote, instead of carefully pulling the syringe from the chain, he just yanks the chain connected to the pulley and wire, which is connected to the door, which pulls it shut and ignites the furnace. God damn, this was so obvious it hurts. But this was the same dipshit who fixed the crooked picture frames in a booby-trapped house. So what do you expect? There's a nozzle across the flames that says "Twist Me," which based on the tapes is a method for extinguishing the flames. Abby's too much of a bitch to take the hit and twist the nozzle, so he goes up in flames along with the antidotes. The others break the back window and Abby manages to squeeze his head and arm through, but it's too late. Abby is dust and ashes from the neck down. They check to see if that was the hand holding the needles, but nope. To be fair to Abby, the antidotes were not ranking high on the priority list at the time. Everyone's really starting to succumb to the effects by now. They've already burned away an hour and still haven't gotten any antidotes. Xavier and the others find a semi-stuck door and try to force their way in. I swear, the nerve gas must be affecting their vision, because I don't know how they don't see the pulley and wire right above the door. He forces it open, pulling the pin on the clock on the door across the room, which shows 4 minutes counting down. Muscles runs over and tries to open the metal vault door with his bare hands. This guy's the living embodiment of the saying, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Jonas finds the cassette tape with Xavier's name on it. He pops it into the cassette recorder.
I'll give you just one hint as to where that key is. It will be like finding a needle in a haystack.
After finishing the tape and realizing their mission, they only have 2 minutes left to find the key in the needle stack. Jigsaw wants us to jump in and start hand digging for it, which is a terrible method. Shuffling the needles around is far too slow. I'd have 2 people with shoes grab the crate and baby carriage and start bucketing out the needles. By dispersing the needles over a greater area and removing them from the pool, others can more easily sift through them and check for the key. Meanwhile, another 2 people can use the spiked bat and shovel that Amanda was previously holding to fish around. This chain gang isn't in a cooperative, team-first mindset. Xavier grabs Amanda and throws her into the pit of needles, presumably because she was a junkie and would be the most comfortable in the situation. Everyone's yelling at him for being an asshole, which he is, but at least he acted. None of you bitches were doing anything. Once Amanda gets past the initial shock factor, she starts scrambling around and miraculously finds the key, which conveniently has a glow tube attached to it for visibility. She tosses it to Xavier, who fumbles the key at the 10-yard line, causing the door to be locked, the antidote to be lost, and all Amanda's work to be in vain. They've lost every antidote so far. Their time's running out, and their chance of securing more antidotes is slim. Even if they get another antidote, it's not enough for all of them. It's time for plan B, which is busting through the wall. Xavier, of all people, correctly guesses the solution to the number riddle. I'd have guessed that the combo had something to do with them all being prisoners, like their cell or inmate numbers. Nope, Jigsaw just sharpied the number on the back of their necks. Gus has a red number 2 on his neck. Now he just has to get everyone else's number. Jonas wants to help, but with only 1 antidote in the vault and Xavier's test rage kicking in, peace was never an option. Jonas has some moves, but not enough to keep him alive. Jonas's number is a yellow 16. Xavier's lucky that Abby popped his head out of the furnace, but even if Abby turned to ashes, he might still be able to brute force the last number in time. Abby's number is a green 11. For Xavier's sake, I hope he's writing these down. The others are oblivious to this and still trying to find clues. As Laura chokes to death on her vomit, she points out the X crack in a glass picture frame. Behind it is a picture of Daniel with his dad, the man who put them all in prison with planted evidence. As expected, nobody really cares too much. It's not like Jigsaw hid an antidote inside Daniel. Addison decided that she couldn't trust them, so she braves the new trap room by herself. There's a plexiglass box hanging from the ceiling with 2 holes in the bottom and an antidote inside. There's also a note with a cassette tape, but she doesn't have the player, so she won't be getting any hints. Addison's immediate action is shoving her hands into the box's holes without any inspection, testing, or caution. Never stick your hands in unfamiliar holes. That's just common sense and general life advice. She should have used the foot of the wooden chair behind her to stick into the hole to test it, or just visually checked it from the top and bottom. Then she could use the stick to keep the blades up while she carefully pulled the antidote out from the plunger side. Once her hand is inside the box, she tries to grab the antidote, but tugged on the capsule, which separated it from the plunger and released the contents. Another antidote down the drain. When she tries to pull her hand out, the blades cinch in and trap her wrist. I think she could squeeze her other hand into the same hole and push the blades up with her fingers to free her hand. If it's too tight, maybe she could shove her belt up into it or something. Addison's not the smartest tool in the shed, so she shoves her other hand into the hole to grab the empty syringe capsule. Must be the poison affecting her. Writhing is just gonna make things worse. She might be able to shove her arms in further and hold up the opposing side's blades to get one arm free, and then get her remaining arm free using the methods we already mentioned. But yeah, at this point she's pretty stuck. She doesn't realize Xavier's on a murdering rampage yet, so from her POV, calling for help is probably the best option. Xavier arrives with no intention of helping and pulls her hair back to get her number. Amanda discovers Jonas's caved-in skull and hears Xavier yelling to find them. He's already hell-bent on killing them, but Daniel dropping the picture sure as shit didn't help. In Xavier's chase, he finds Laura's body and collects her number 2. Amanda and Daniel wedge the door shut against Xavier. It seems like they're stuck until Amanda finds a secret basement door. They escape through it and wind up in a dead end, which also happens to be the bathroom from Saw 1. Adam didn't age too well, nor did Zepp or Lawrence's foot. Xavier chases them down, but before he kills them for their numbers, Amanda hits him with a big Q. How will he get his own number? This distracts Xavier into cutting his neck skin off to get it, which opens an opportunity for Daniel to saw his carotid artery open. That was the same saw that Lawrence used on his foot. Nasty. Xavier really should have killed him before the self-surgery. Side note, Xavier made it pretty damn far without dying from the poison. Dude was a tank. Amanda and Daniel, on the other hand, never showed any symptoms. I don't think a nerve gas was being pumped in. I think everyone was poisoned except Amanda and Daniel, which makes sense. Daniel has to live for Eric's metagame to work. Amanda not being poisoned, however, is extremely suspicious. Back in the factory, Eric loses his mind watching all this go down and tries to beat his son's location out of Jigsaw. Allison, this is what Jigsaw wants. Why haven't you talked any sense into Eric? Again, the fact that Daniel is still alive means that the probability of this being pre-recorded is very high. Otherwise, Jigsaw's metagame falls apart. Jigsaw says game over, and that'll take Eric to Daniel on the condition that nobody follows them. And there it is, Jigsaw's brilliant escape plan. Eric hits the elevator button, which takes them to the underground garage where his getaway car is parked. Allison was just completely gobsmacked by this wholly unpredictable move. There was just no way of anticipating that Jigsaw had an escape plan or could have known he was sitting in an elevator. Eric should have grabbed the radio before leaving so he could let the SWAT team know his location after Jigsaw spills the beans. Right after their escape, the tech team gets a lock on the location the broadcast was originating from. Jigsaw leads Eric to the house, and Eric hops out and heads inside without taking literally any precautions. Again, he should have brought the radio, or used his cell phone to call in his location now that he arrived. He should have cuffed Jigsaw to the car, kneecapped, or killed him right there. Why Eric, in all his rage, didn't kill Jigsaw once they arrived is beyond me. I get that Eric thinks that he's on a time crunch, but waiting 5 to 10 minutes for SWAT to get there seems reasonable given the danger Jigsaw's trap houses pose. The police show up to the house where the broadcast was originating from, except it's not the house the victims were in, or the one that Jigsaw led Eric to. It was a proxy house that was serving up old footage. The timer hits 0 and buzzes open a vault in the corner of the room. Inside is little Daniel breathing through a mask. I'm going to assume that he didn't make a peep this whole time because he was breathing in sleeping gas until the timer hit 0. Still, nobody checked what the countdown timer was hooked up to? Are the bomb and geek squad they brought in really that fucking incompetent? Eric makes his way down to the basement where Xavier's body has been rotting for days. If only he brought his radio or someone called him with the news that Daniel was safe. It looks like there's someone in the tub in the back of the bathroom. In his approach, he stupidly holsters his weapon and gets within jump scare distance. Why? Just why? Eric's stupidity finally catches up with him. What is with Pigmask abducting people with the worst strategy imaginable? You're going to hide in a tub in the trap house that Eric thinks his son was murdered, with dead bodies everywhere, with a pig uniform on, in hopes that he holsters his gun and gets close enough to you so you can stab him with a syringe. Eric wakes up chained to the wall with a cassette tape next to him. At this point, do you even need to listen to the tape? You have to realize you're an idiot who's completely fucked himself. He hits play and Amanda basically tells him it's game over and he's going to rot in the bathroom like Adam.
Game over.
I'll fucking kill you!
The movie ends with Jigsaw chuckling at the thought of Eric getting played like a fiddle. Let's recap the pivotal points where different decisions could have altered who lived and died. Breaking out of the house was an option in my opinion. Then they could all hit up the hospital and reveal the location of Jigsaw's base. Gus looking through the peephole was unnecessary and unlucky. He was always dead. Abby's death was entirely preventable, and they could have secured 2 antidotes. Xavier not seeing the pulley above the stuck door was pretty dumb as well. They could have secured another antidote, leaving 3 in need. Addison's trap was also entirely beatable. That's another antidote. Xavier wouldn't have been so aggressive and desperate with all these antidotes, and with his brains, they would have secured 1 more antidote. If the detectives were not morons, they would have deduced that there was a high probability of the game being pre-recorded, checked what the countdown timer was linked to, turned the factory inside out, got the blueprints to the factory, realized that Jigsaw was sitting in an elevator, and anticipated Jigsaw's game, which likely involved an escape plan involving Eric. Jigsaw likely would not have been successful. If Eric had radioed in his location, the SWAT team would have raided the actual house, taken down Amanda and Jigsaw, and saved Eric's life. Even if Amanda fled, there's substantial evidence that points to her being connected with Jigsaw. Her being involved in surviving 2 games means she has recurring ties to him. Daniel's negative toxicology reports and Amanda surviving with him to the end without showing any symptoms is indicative that she wasn't poisoned either. And as a detective, you have to ask why. All said and done, I think we could have beaten the traps from Saw 2. Thanks for watching, and remember, be a good person and value each day you're alive, or you might end up in a psychopath's torture dungeon. If a military plane loaded with biological weapons crashed into your town's water supply, what? If a military plane loaded with biological weapons crashed into your town's water supply, what would you do? In this How to Beat video, we'll follow the town sheriff, see if we can make better decisions, and ultimately attempt to beat the Trixie virus in The Crazies. If you think you have a better way, let me know in the comments. If you like these How to Beat videos, consider liking and subscribing. Before we start, I gotta let y'all know about some new stuff. I just set up my merch store with the Nerd Explains logo tees and mugs, so everyone else can identify who to team up with if shit goes down. Us nerds gotta stick together. And before you say it, the shirts also come with a guarantee that I won't cannibalize you if the food runs out. That's what you call an exclusive perk. Besides the official logo merch, I made something custom, the Bloody Banana Split. If you don't get it, you haven't watched enough of my videos. I'm gonna be making more custom designs commemorating special Nerd Explains videos and jokes. Also, you can now flex on everyone else by becoming a channel member and getting custom evolving zombie badges next to your name in the comments. Thanks again for the support, guys, and the handful of gals out there as well. We start out following Sheriff David. The crowd's having a good time at the ball game until a deranged man stumbles onto the field with a Rossi Overland double-barrel shotgun. David tries to de-escalate the situation, but the man doesn't appear to be right in the head.
You laid that gun down. Rory?
That was a quick-ass draw. Let's take a step back and break that situation down. I'm not sure what the actual protocol is for police in this situation, but I'd imagine you'd already have your gun unholstered and or pre-aimed, or at the very least the holster button pre-popped for a quicker draw. My thinking is that you'd want to go wide when walking up to him, so you ended up on his side with no innocents behind you. Walking up to Rory like David did potentially put the entire crowd in the line of fire. I'd have the deputy get everyone out of there, like actually have everyone leave the area, then come up on Rory's other flank so they both have clear lines of fire with no nearby bystanders. We have to remember that this is a small town, so David knows Rory. He knows he's a drunk but also a decent person, so he gives them the benefit of the doubt and closes the distance to try to have a heart-to-heart. This is a risky play because closing the distance can help you de-escalate the situation and give you more of an opportunity to grab Rory's gun away from him, but it also means he can shoot you way more easily. In the movie, David walks straight up to Rory and still has a crowd of innocents behind him. Closing the distance in this case means that if Rory starts squeezing the triggers, he'd take the entire load of buckshot and his partner could kill Rory, but everyone behind him would be safe. Another tactical error, if you close the distance, you'd want to have your deputy on your flank also close the distance. You don't want to be close and him far, because then he's more likely to accidentally shoot you. Realistically, at that distance, Rory would not need to shoulder the gun or aim it. He already had it pointed at David's chest and could just pull the trigger. It's a tough situation when somebody already has a gun drawn on you. You either have to distract them or divert their weapon away from you before you go to draw your weapon, because they could easily kill you before you got your gun out of the holster. David was too far away to physically divert Rory's gun, so drawing on Rory was exceptionally dangerous, though he didn't really have a choice. This is why you'd want to already have your gun up before engaging. However, David did have some key advantages. He perceived that Rory was drunk or under the influence, which would slow his reaction times. He would also have noticed that Rory's Rossi Overland shotgun has hammers on both tubes that need to be cocked back before firing. These were not cocked back as far as I can tell. David's also using a standard issue Glock 19, which doesn't have a safety that needs to be flipped off, decreasing the time to fire. All of this combined with being the first to initiate the draw means that Rory is unlikely to be able to get the shot off before David. For a small town sheriff, this still takes a lot of skill to pull off under stress, especially when you know that Rory was a decent guy. They take Rory's body back to the medical examiner, who says that the toxicology report from his autopsy is going to take a week or so to be completed, which, like every other movie, is long enough that whatever was causing the problem will kill everyone before they figure it out. We really need to improve these toxicology report times. We never figure out what's going on until it's too late. Afterwards, the sheriff goes to console the grieving family, and it goes about how you'd expect.
You had to do it. I had to shoot the dump truck.
It's not like he had a shotgun pointed at my head or anything, but I guess you can't really expect a grieving wife whose husband you just blew away to think rationally. Everyone seems to think it was just Rory being drunk as usual, which is honestly the most reasonable assumption based on what they know. The next morning, David shows up to the sheriff's office and the phones are blowing up, which is odd for such a small town of 1,260 people. One of the phone calls is the medical examiner, who says that Rory was actually not drunk. In fact, he had a blood alcohol level of 0.0. Well, if he wasn't wasted, then what the hell was wrong with him? David returns to the baseball field to try to make sense of it all. Ben, who is at the shooting, is doing the same, so David tries to talk to him.
Ben. 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 Hey, you all right? He's resilient. You're gonna be all right.
Yeah, this is a bit weird, but it's still reasonable and passable behavior for someone who also witnessed the shooting and probably has some PTSD. Meanwhile, David's wife, who is the town doctor, is examining another man who has some sort of sudden onset mental illness or brain impairment.
She worries too much. I'm fine. Just a little tired.
You got any plans this weekend?
She worries too much. I'm fine. Just a little tired.
What's worrying is that the cases of mental illness are sudden onset and occurring in multiple people who were otherwise normal not days ago. Again, this is a town of like 1,200 people. It's not like she's a doctor in a big city with tons of random people coming in. The problem is that until this information is gossiped around enough, everyone has a fractured view and no consensus can be made on the state of the situation. Nobody by themselves has enough information to act. But from a God's eye view, things are going south fast. Interestingly, whatever is happening is initially only happening to the men. Their wives and kids are not affected, and it doesn't seem to have spread to them. Deirdre takes her husband back home from the doctor, and later that night, she notices that the combine in their shed is turned on. Maybe Bill's just going for a little late night farming. Yeah, no, you're fucked. I hope I'm not the only one who is internally screaming at this lady to not stand in front of the active combine with her deranged husband on the loose. You're just asking for this to happen.
You died, zombie!
Combines can go about 5 miles per hour, which is like a jog speed. I'm sure she can get out of the way if it comes at her, but what if she trips? I mean, why risk it? And she walks up closer to it. Lady, please, keep your hands and feet away from the spinning blades. If you would kindly walk along the perimeter of the shed to the side of the combine, you will have access to the cabin where you can discuss your issues with the operator. You just got played by your psycho husband who's now attempting to murder your child. Nice. Honestly, you're lucky he was not in the combine, or what's left of your corpse would be sitting in the grain tank right now, and your child would be hopeless. Personally, I think she should have brought her son with her to the shed. Hear me out because I know it seems counterintuitive. Your significant other is exhibiting severe mental derangement all of a sudden. You take them to the doctor, then that night you hear the combine spinning up in the shed. You're obviously scared enough to not want to bring your kid into a potentially dangerous situation, which is why you should. If you go to the shed by yourself and something happens to you, your kid will not know what happened, and he might come to the shed to find out and get killed, or get killed by the husband later on. If you bring him but keep him back a bit, he will be able to see what's going on, and you can keep an eye on him, but he won't be in danger as long as you don't hold his hand while you flail in front of the active combine blades like an idiot. Leaving the kid back at the house by himself when you cannot 100% know where your deranged husband is a bad play. Not to mention how nuts it is to have been planning on going to sleep in the same bed and house as him when you clearly are this afraid and nervous
Damn,
about
this
his
shit
mental
is
state and your
hard.
safety. If my girlfriend suddenly started staring at the wall all day,
This shit
unaware
is
of anything
hard.
going on around her, and repeated the same phrases over and over again, I will
This
definitely
shit goes
not be going to sleep in the same bed or house as her, and my dog will be staying with me elsewhere. I mean, yeah, I'd take her to the hospital and stuff too. You get what I'm saying. By now, you've no doubt heard about the shooting of Rory, a man who suddenly went full psycho. That shit's gonna be in the back of your head. You're gonna be thinking that maybe the same thing is happening to your husband. She gets back to the house and finds her son, and he takes her into a closet where he tells her that the dad was coming after him with a knife. I want to take a second to point out that hiding in a closet is really not a good idea. You have nowhere to run, and it's such an obvious hiding spot. I remember playing hide and go seek when I was a kid, and literally the first place you check is the closets. You gotta get creative. I heard about an incident where law enforcement raided a guy's house, and they ended up finding him inside of a bed mattress. Yeah, I mean, they found him, but they were U.S. Marshals, not some psycho. I don't think hiding inside of a mattress is a feasible or good decision either, though. Like the closet, you have no escape, and if Bill decides to sleep on that bed, good luck holding your breath all night. She could try to ambush him and whack him upside the head with a flower vase. but the dude's got a knife, and if you don't knock him out in one hit, you're probably dead. Personally, I'd have grabbed a lamp pole, smashed out the hallway window behind them, and then aimed for the bushes. I've seen some parkour videos. You just gotta roll when you hit the ground. Bill comes up the stairs, and surprise, surprise, he found them in their super secret hiding spot. Damn, that got me. Wait, what's that smell? Yeah, I have some problems with this too. Closet doors shouldn't be that hard to kick open because interior house doors are usually hollow and weak, and in their case, the doors open away from them. You could argue that they were just trying to keep a barrier between them and him, but I think the strong smell of gas would light a fire under your ass to leave the closet. Unfortunately, Deirdre doesn't seem to understand the concept of kicking the door down and instead jiggles the doorknob like it's just gonna magically open. I can't stand when people do that. Just standing there jiggling the doorknob when it's locked. Like, come on, start ferociously kicking the door down by shoving your heel into it. It's your only chance. And for those curious, you want to shove your heel into the spot just next to the doorknob. Sheriff David shows up to the crime scene with his wife. Does he normally bring her on calls? Because that seems super dangerous and unprofessional. The last thing you need is a highly emotional person coming onto the crime scene and freaking out. Okay, by now David has to know something is up. That is 3 encounters with deranged people who were all normal not days ago, all now exhibiting murderous tendencies. It's like The Happening, except everyone wants to kill each other instead of themselves. Unfortunately, that toxicology report is still 4 or 5 days away. Good luck getting Bill to do a CT scan or getting any information out of him. Meanwhile, some hunters down in the marsh find a parachute stuck in the trees. Maybe there's a supply crate with something cool in it. Nope. Seems like it'd be hard to get any work done with a guy who just murdered his wife and child, staring you down like that for every second of the day, unmoving for hours. I have trouble concentrating when my dog is looking at me for pets. From what we can tell, it's not transmitting via bite. It doesn't seem to be airborne or contact-based either, or the families would have gotten it too. But there's not enough info to really understand what's going on. They get a call from the hunters about the downed pilot and go investigate it. The corpse is unrecognizable, but the uniform and insignia is military. The medical examiner thinks this bro's been hanging out in the marsh for about a week or so. Based on the reports of something crashing into the marsh about a week or so ago too, there may be a downed plane somewhere nearby. It seems like the chances of them finding that plane within the same day is really unlikely, but as you'll see later, David is one lucky man. It looks like a C-130 military cargo plane or something similar. Definitely military. Initially, you'd want to send some divers in to see what's what. But because there's a high likelihood that this is connected with the town's events, there may be something toxic in the water. The only safe way to investigate the wreckage is with the hazmat dive team, which Ogden Marsh definitely does not have on staff. A cheap alternative would be to take water samples and pictures of the dead pilot, his credentials, as well as the plane. They go to the town water person, and he confirms their suspicions. The same water that the plane is residing in flows into their town's drinking water supply. Not only that, but the water reaches Rory's house first. Rory wasn't drunk on booze. He was drunk on a top-secret biological weapon. Apparently, whatever was in that plane survived the entire water treatment process and made it into people's homes where it infected them. This revelation carries 2 massive problems. The first problem is that this was caused by the military and government, and this plane crashed a week ago, but there's no soldiers or men in black to be seen. You would think they'd be out here within a day of the initial crash to recover their plane, which was carrying God knows what. The fact that they aren't suggests that they're either grossly incompetent, or more likely they know that something really bad was set loose, and recovering the plane is the last of their worries. If I had to guess, right now they're probably setting up a wide quarantine zone around the entire town. If this situation is as severe as these raging clues would suggest, anyone that drank the water in the past week is already infected unless they're somehow immune. Being a small town that's forgettable, the military and government can still retain plausible deniability to cover up the incident, saying that a chemical plant exploded or something. You should expect roads to be blocked and the internet and cell service to be blacked out. It might seem hasty and rash, but fleeing is the only option you might have at this point. Being a government blackout, they have records of everyone in the town and may make you disappear if you try to escape and talk. Hopefully, David had the brains to take pictures and samples, which he could use as leverage or a dead man's switch to preserve his safety. The second massive problem is that this plane was downed for a week and has been flowing something toxic into this town the whole time. Water in the distribution network might have hit Rory first, but it's been a full day since that incident and a week since the plane crashed. Literally everyone in the town would have been drinking that water by now. It is infected if they can be infected. Even David and his deputy, who was sipping fresh weaponized pathogens every morning, are on borrowed time unless they're somehow immune. Doesn't hurt to break out the bottled water instead though. David heads out to the classic overindulged mayor to convince him to turn off the water supply. I think it's pointless by now, but it wouldn't hurt. He gets pushback because the lack of water would kill the crops and the entire farm town would go bankrupt. There's really no use arguing with a guy that won't put some clothes on to discuss something important like this. I was just gonna say they should break in and shut it off anyways. Any toxicology report or hard evidence would take too much valuable time to put together and present, and the stubborn mayor would just shut it down anyways. Deputy Russell locks up the lever and notices that Bill is not standing anymore. I mean, no shit. Who's just gonna stand there the whole time? Even infected psychos gotta lay down once in a while. It's a good thing David stopped him from going in, but couldn't he have just told him to wait up? There was no need to jump scare the poor guy. I don't know what Russ was thinking. Who would have been idiotic enough to go into a cell by themselves to check out a guy who's infected with the same kind of military pathogen which has potentially led to Rory trying to murder David, as well as Bill murdering his wife and kid? Besides the fact that Bill might try to murder you, your lack of PPE might expose you to the pathogen if you aren't already. They correctly assess that they are not equipped to deal with this man and check his transfer status. Lo and behold, the internet and cell service are out. Wonder who that could be. It's quiet down at Ogden Marsh's main street. Too quiet. A VPN won't help you in a blackout caused by the military quarantining a bioweapon accident. But until that day comes, you should consider equipping your cyber self with Surfshark. Let me get existential and ask you this. How much time do you spend on the internet? Probably more than physically interacting with other people. If you think about it, your cyber you is more you than your physical body is. In the physical world, you lock your doors, possess weapons, and check behind the shower curtain when using the toilet. But most people surf the web with their cyber spirit completely exposed. Surfshark's got a full array of digital defenses to enhance your abilities and thwart attackers. With Surfshark, you'll possess an all-in-one solution to eliminate ads, malware, trackers, phishing attempts, censorship, internet borders, content restrictions, account theft, and so much more. All these defenses can be armed on an unlimited number of devices, so your phone, laptop, desktop, tablet, and phablet are all covered. What's this digital defense package cost? Like $2 a month if you use my promo code NerdExplains for 84% off and 4 extra months for free. But Nerd Explains, what about free options? If you aren't paying for the product, you are the product. It's pretty self-defeating for a free VPN to be tracking and selling your information. The best case scenario for a free VPN is they trash your internet speed and experience to get you to upgrade to their paid plan. So just sign up for Surfshark with my code and defend your digital you. What do you do now? A military plane carrying a deadly pathogen crashed into the drinking water that everyone's been gulping down for a week. There's no cell reception, indicating a quarantine and suppression of everyone in the town, and now the entire town is dead-ass silent. You're now on a tight timeline. The infection is clearly past the incubation period, and everyone should be considered potentially hostile. With the possibility of the government silencing and denying this catastrophe, the military cannot be trusted. The cell reception is down, so there's no good way to create a dead man switch with your evidence. Your best bet is to get the water samples, pictures, and credentials from the downed pilot. Then go home, grab your wife, and start walking to the nearest city, which should only be a few hours away. I say walking because every road's gonna be blocked by the military. You're gonna have to avoid these unmarked vans too. I know you're a cop and you want to start saving everyone, but it's too late. Sure, there could be survivors that are immune, but it's it's highly unlikely. There is a much higher chance that you will get murdered by a psycho. Or not. Again, investigating every sound and abnormality is unwise. Your focus should be solely on escaping with your wife and your life. If someone is clearly in need of help, then yeah, go help. But wandering in stores and chasing weird noises is a surefire way to get dead. This place is a hellhole waiting to erupt. David heads into the funeral home and quickly discovers this.
Behind you.
It's almost as if everyone drank the water, is infected, and is turned into a psycho like you hypothesized. Dude, get up or roll over sideways, god damn. You would have had serious problems if Russ didn't show up at that exact second, which realistically he would not have. And on that note, why were you out there by yourself with no backup, with everyone turning into a version of Bill and Rory? David finally realizes that this place cannot be saved, and it's gonna degenerate hard and fast, and goes home to warn his wife. But she stubbornly refuses to just leave because, and I quote, she's their doctor. What part of everyone's an infected murdering psycho now that you didn't get? You have no idea what the issue is, how it's affecting them, and these people are not treatable as evidenced by me almost getting neutered by a bone saw. You can't do shit. This problem is way worse than a small town doctor can handle. I swear, some of these people are so stubborn that you could tell them that you found a nuclear device with a 30-minute countdown, and they tell you that they need to stay to treat the wounded. David apparently learned nothing from his funeral home encounter and heads out by himself to check out their shed because his wife saw someone. Yeah, it's probably a murdering psycho like I was just telling you about. Do you want to go give them a health exam now, sweetheart? No? Then let's go get in the car and leave. David goes to check it out by himself, also leaving his wife in the home by herself. Where the f is Russ anyways? You'd think sticking together and getting some firepower would be smart.
That's tight.
Honestly, that was probably the best outcome. They get taken to the FEMA quarantine camps and separated into infected versus uninfected based on elevated temperatures. His wife seems to think it's cerebral hemorrhaging from a virus, but only transferred through bodily fluids. Looks like Judy drank too much of the water.
No, please, please, I'm pregnant, please, no.
I don't know why she's screaming, no, no, no. They're literally trying to help you. They could have just thrown you in the fenced cage outside with everyone else. David gets let out of the quarantine with tons of others because they passed a quick temperature check. Why is it that movies think a handheld temperature screen is conclusive enough to let people out of a quarantine zone? You're dealing with a town of 1,200 people. It shouldn't be that hard to put them in a second stage area where they're more fully tested for the virus. The military must know that there's an incubation period from when the plane crashed to when people suddenly started losing their minds and cerebral hemorrhaging. Anyone who traveled in from out of town or didn't drink much of the water may still be in the incubation period. Letting people leave right now is idiotic. Not to mention, you'd probably want to see if any of the uninfected people had generated antibodies to the virus. Meanwhile, his wife is in the hospital with a front row seat to the unfolding chaos outside.
Tell you what, kid. Don't ask me why I can't leave without my wife. I won't ask you why you can.
Damn, David just pulled a Jason Bourne. This guy was way too good to be a small town sheriff. As for why that guy can leave his wife, well, for starters, it's a quarantine due to a deadly pathogen outbreak. And maybe it's a good idea to leave her in the hands of medical professionals who understand the pathogen better and can help her. Also maybe because he's an overweight accountant and you're an athletic sheriff who's way better skilled and equipped for the job. Did you honestly think he was gonna ninja onto the bus, sneak past all the soldiers, fight off all the crazies, find his wife, and escape to the city alive? He would 100% have gotten him and his wife killed. Well, the military quarantine was overrun by a couple guys in a truck. The military does not even try to regain control, and they all hop in their choppers and bounce. Solid work, guys. I guess I understand that with everyone running the gates and scrambling like it's Too Fast, Too Furious, you need to reestablish a wider perimeter. On one side, now you can rescue Judy, and there won't be any soldiers there to stop you. But on the flip side, now you gotta deal with with all the crazies and bandits, which are arguably more dangerous. Before going in to save his wife, David goes back to grab his 6-shooter while Russ grabs the shotty. David doesn't even know that the camp was overrun yet, so I'm not sure what his plan is. Does he really think he's just gonna wave his .38 special revolver at the soldiers, sweep his gal off her feet, and ride into the sunset? Things aren't looking so good back at the hospital. There's really no time to try to Houdini out of the restraints. He'd just kill you. Honestly, staying quiet and acting dead is her best shot at this point, which she doesn't do in the slightest. Judy, close your fucking eyes and turn your head back. Oh my god, stop squirming and crying for Christ's sake. He's obviously targeting the alive-looking people. David saves her ass just before she gets the rape.